Hi everyone, my name is Pushpalata, Doctor of Apanayu. I'm from Polytechnic Sultan Salahuddin Abdul Aziz Shah. Today I would like to present on the impact of perceived usefulness, perceived ease of use, perceived value, and perceived risk on purchase intention via hypermarket drive-thru among Klang Valley consumers. Let us start with our retail industry overview. Due to COVID-19 pandemic in Malaysia, we are exposed to various scenarios such as lockdown, movement control order, panic buying, social distancing, and so on. All these scenarios contribute to the changes in consumers' attitude, intention, and their buying behavior. Based on Consumer Sentiment Index for the year 2020 shows that the value is less than 100. It means that consumers are very conscious about spending their money because of high unemployment rate. Furthermore, Tan Hai Sin, the managing director of Malaysia Retail Group, perceives that the retail business valued at RM 107.5 billion in 2019 is likely to lose RM 10.9 billion in 2020 as a result of COVID-19 pandemic. This is because of closure of cinemas, entertainment centers, certain retail outlets they need to operate during limited operation hours and so on. Furthermore, the inflation rate from the Q2 year 2020 onwards is known as deflation, means the price of the goods are decreasing due to the surplus of the goods. So in order to overcome all these problems and so on, so COVID-19 become a turning point for conventional hypermarkets to adapt the technology in their day-to-day operation. This is what happens where they start to introduce drive-thru services to gain the customers' trust and also their demand towards the goods and services. AEON introduced their drive-thru services on the 1st April 2020. Lulu Hypermarket introduced their drive-thru services on the 3rd April 2020, and finally Tesco on the 10th April 2020. The first drive-thru services in Malaysia was introduced by McDonald's in Jalan Pahang. As we know, drive-thru is very common among Malaysians. It's mostly can be seen in a fast food outlet. But drive-thru in hypermarket industry is something that is very new. Next, we move on to this is the process how to order goods or goods from the hypermarkets using drive-thru services, where the customer need to log in to select that hypermarket website, choose the product, add into the cart, choose the date and time to pick up. On that particular time and date, they need to go to the drive-thru line at the selected hypermarket and also make the payment using their debit card or credit card. So there's no cash transaction over there. Next, what is the problem statement? As we know, COVID-19 SOPs. According to the COVID-19 SOPs, the consumer need to wear face mask at the crowded places, maintain social distancing, limit certain hypermarkets. They have to limit the number of customers in their store so it won't be very crowded and so on. So all these things causes inconvenience among the customers, where they have to wait in a long queue. At the end of the day, they go home with a frustration because certain goods is out of stocks and so on. That is number one. Number two, when the government of Malaysia, when Malaysian government introduced lockdown, or movement control order, it causes panic buying among Malaysians. Essential items such as rice, instant noodles, toilet tissues flew off from the shelf very fast and so on. Other than that, according to the Malaysian Communication and Multimedia Commission, says that 64.2% of the internet user prefer to shop online in 2020 compared to 53.3% in 2018. And according to the statement by Pernama 2020, the e-wallet transaction has increased by 131% in 2020. It shows that consumers prefer to do online shopping rather than go for the physical store because they don't want the COVID to spread to them through the cash transaction or any transaction at the physical stores and so on. Therefore, in order to overcome the first and the second problem, and based on the third point, it shows that people prefer to go for online shopping and so on. So hypermarket introduced drive-thru as their services, where the customers by using drive-thru, the customers are not have any physical contact with any other customers or with the sales representative in the selected hypermarkets and so on. So by doing this, they're able to reduce the number of COVID-19 cases that spread among Malaysians. Okay, so therefore this particular research was conducted to determine the impact of independent variable on purchase intention via hypermarket drive-thru among Klang Valley consumers. This is my research objective, to determine the strength of relationship between independent variable, which is perceived value, perceived usefulness, perceived ease of use, and perceived risk, with dependent variable, which is purchase intention. Second objective is to determine the impact of perceived value, perceived usefulness, perceived ease of use, and perceived risk on Klang Valley consumers' purchase intention using to use drive-thru services at hypermarket. Next, this is my literature review. Perceived value, remember Patrick 2002 says that perceived value is not only talking about the price, but it's also highlighting other factors such as quality, emotions, reputations, and so on. Lulu 2022 says that perceived value has a significant impact on consumers' purchase intention for energy-saving product in China. However, perceived usefulness means how useful that particular apps to the end users. So according to Chan 2022 concluded that perceived usefulness has the most significant impact on adoption of mobile shopping during COVID-19 pandemic, followed by perceived ease of use and enjoyment. Next, perceived ease of use means how easy that particular app, is it user friendly, how's the interface, is it easy to access, and so on. So according to Hanjaya 2019 concluded in Singapore, perceived ease of use, perceived usefulness, and service quality have a significant impact on consumer online purchase intention. And finally, perceived risk. It can be measured in terms of product risk, financial risk, security risk, convenience risk, and so on. And according to Hamad and Hakla Iqbal 2021, perceived risk has a negative impact on consumers' purchase intention through online purchase, because when they feel that online transaction is highly risky, then they will not engage on it. Next, this is my research framework. It was adapted from Lai and Siner 2015. Next, this is my research methodology. This particular research was conducted in Klang Valley. The total population in Klang Valley is 8,418,100. This is based on the statistic from based from Jabatan Perangkaan Malaysia 2021. Why do I choose Klang Valley? Because retail business in Klang Valley contribute almost 60% of the country's total retail sales, and Klang Valley is the most highly affected area in the country during the COVID-19 pandemic. The sample size, in order to determine the sample size, I use Springtree and Morgan table. So the chosen sample size is 384. Next, sampling techniques. I use convenient sampling techniques because this particular questionnaire was distributed through Google Link. So we go for convenient sampling. What is the results? First, let us have a look in the respondents' profile. 83% of the respondents who participated in the survey is from Selangor, 12% from KL, and 5% from Putrajaya. And majority of the respondents, which is 70%, are female, 30% are male. According to the age range, majority of the respondents are 46 and above, and minority is only 26 to 35 years old. Respondents' education level, majority of them are degree holder, 37%, diploma holder 35%, master holder 17%, 4% is PhD holders, and 7% is SPM holders. Respondents, where do they frequently purchase their grocery item? So 39% of the respondents choose AEON, means they frequently purchase their grocery item from AEON. 35% will choose Tesco. They go for Tesco. Meanwhile, 25% they choose others. Maybe it can be Giant, it can be Jaya Grocer, it can be Hero or it can be Segi Fresh and so on. And finally, 1% referring to Lulu Hypermarket. How frequent do the respondent visit hypermarket? Majority of the respondent, 44% of the respondent, choose once in a month. Okay, in a weekly basis is the 42% of the respondent, and once in every 2 to 3 months is 14% of the respondents. Okay, so do they ever experience of using drive-thru services during COVID-19 pandemic? 22% of the respondents say yes, they used drive-thru services during COVID-19 pandemic. Meanwhile, 78% of the respondents say they do not use COVID-19 and they do not use drive-thru services during COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, next, based on this 22%, 86% of the respondents says that they are very satisfied with the drive-thru services provided by the hypermarket. Meanwhile, 14% of the respondents says that they do not happy with the services. Okay, in terms of the reliability analysis, I use 24 items to measure all my four independent and one dependent variables. So the overall Cronbach alpha coefficient is for 24 items is 0.962, which means that so it's proven the internal consistency. Okay, so overall all the items can be classified as good. Okay, then in terms of Pearson correlation and regression analysis, it shows that in order to answer my first objective, is there any the relationship, the strength of the relationship? It shows that perceived value, perceived usefulness, perceived ease of use have a strong relationship with purchase intention. It's positive and strong. Meanwhile, perceived risk have a positive but medium. Okay, the strength of the relationship between perceived risk and purchase intention is medium. Second, in terms of the regression analysis, it shows that which is the most significant IV that impacted the purchase intention. The most significant is perceived usefulness, okay, because the standardized beta is 0.332, followed by perceived ease of use 0.3232. Third will be perceived value 0.182, and finally is perceived risk do not have any significant impact with the purchase intention. So based on these findings, it shows that perceived usefulness, okay, is the most significant impact, have a most significant impact on consumers' purchase intention via drive-thru, hypermarket drive-thru. Okay, followed by perceived ease of use. Third is perceived value. Meanwhile, perceived risk does not have any significant impact on the consumer's intention. So as my conclusion here, I can say that the theoretical assumption in technology acceptance model, which says that perceived usefulness is influenced by perceived ease of use, is not applicable during COVID-19 pandemic. It shows that during COVID-19 pandemic, whether the customer want to accept any new application, new apps and so on, it depends on how useful is that particular apps in that particular scenario. Like COVID-19, it can be spread through physical contact and so on. So this seems to be drive-thru is the best option for them, okay, and it can save them from getting COVID, especially when they go and have physical contact in the hypermarkets and so on. Okay. Meanwhile, perceived risk does not have any significant impact on the consumer's purchase intention using drive-thru services, because COVID-19 has exposed us with various types of online transaction, and we are very used to it. Okay. Other than that, most of the e-commerce retailers, okay, they provide multiple choices to the customer in terms of the payment, where you can pay cash on delivery. Okay, not necessarily you have to use your credit card. You can pay using your debit card and so on. So perceived risk seems to be not significant in influencing consumers' purchase intention using drive-thru services. Okay, so the most important is perceived usefulness, perceived ease of use, and also perceived value. Okay, so the hypermarket retailer must ensure the product that they provide to their customer is high in quality. Okay, so that the customer will trust their services and will come back to them in a frequently basis. So that's all for my presentation. Thank you, everyone.